Welcome to Playmakers. I'm Haley Elwood. Welcome to week 3, where the Los Angeles Chargers will travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Tracy Wolfson will be on the call, and she joins me now. Tracy, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Haley.
I know, I'm so excited, and we are going to talk about this week 3 game, but I want to actually rewind to week 2 of 2020. The last time really we got a Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs team versus a Justin Herbert-led Chargers team. The surprise start, we've heard the story a million times, but not necessarily from the people like you who were there. What was that moment like, finding out that Herbert was getting the start just seconds before kickoff?
All right, well, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that I was like 4 stories high.
Right.
I was on the top of SoFi because we were going to open the show with this amazing view and show how amazing the stadium is. And I'm getting ready, and we're rehearsing, and we had all these things set out to do to highlight SoFi Stadium. So as this was taking place, I was doing my introduction hit, and all of a sudden they're like, and here comes Justin Herbert. And I'm like, what? And then I'm trying to get down, stairs. And remember, last year we weren't on the field, so I didn't get to really see much. It was very difficult. You couldn't talk to anyone pregame, so you had no idea that something was actually taking place. And then the fact that I was like high up in the stands taping this intro made it obviously more difficult. So as soon as we got down, or I got down, obviously just all hands on deck trying to figure out what actually took place. So we were frazzled, but it was great. We caught it. And obviously, he went out and impressed. And we sat down with Justin, last week and had a chance to talk about kind of the week 2 anniversary. And he told us a great story. And I'm not sure if you guys know it, but he said he had no idea that Tyrod Taylor was even hurt. He actually thought this was part of the game plan and that maybe they decided going into the game that he was going to start. They just didn't tell him. So he played the whole game thinking this was actually what they had planned, which I thought was hilarious. So he had no time to be nervous, right?
Right.
But it was a great story. I mean, just what a way to, kick off his career.
Such a way. I mean, and so crazy too. And he wasn't the only one. I mean, I went back and I listened to it, and I love Tony Romo, where he has this reaction that's like, man, did they keep this one under wraps? But really, it was so unexpected. To your point, the quarterback didn't even know.
No, I mean, no one knew. It was crazy. And, I think he was like, full of adrenaline. I think he obviously was ready for the moment. And what he had said, he had never taken any reps with the ones before. That was his first time. So he hadn't even done that in the preseason or anything. But they had prepared him to start no matter, if he ever had to. So they would spend a lot of time, he said, off the field or in meetings, and also after practices, preparing him to take over for that moment, but just not with the ones.
Right. What really impressed you, not only about how he played that day, but how he really performed through the rest of the season to turn it into an Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign?
I just think it was the poise. He is so comfortable in that pocket. He doesn't seem to get rattled. We all know his arm. I mean, he can get it out so quick. And he's got this rapport with Keenan Allen that is kind of like a wink, wink. And, Keenan and Phillip had it, but they had a lot of time to develop that. And I spoke to Keenan Allen about it, and he said, it started literally week 1 that day. He knew he was the real deal. And now they have this freedom amongst each other. And so he might hold it a little longer. He holds it knowing that Keenan Allen will get open eventually. So they have this rapport, and then you see Mike Williams stepping up. I just think he's just a leader out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see that more and more on the sidelines, where he takes on that leadership role. Right now, I think he comes back really focused. What did I do wrong? And, what can I fix? But he doesn't get rattled. I mean, he threw those interceptions, and he comes to the sidelines, and he's just, back in the mix and going back out there. And that's huge for a guy of his age.
Yeah, being able to compartmentalize is so important as a quarterback in the NFL, a young QB as well. I think too, you mentioned Mike Williams, the emergence of him this season in this offense. He's got 2 touchdowns in 2 games. He's really coming along. And for those of us who have also seen him over these last few years, it almost feels like he's hitting a stride right now in 2021.
It really does. And I think Joe Lombardi should take a lot of credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
He said it right away that he's going to play a big role in this offense. They put him at that X position, and taking advantage of it, especially because all eyes are on Keenan and trying to double him. And they have a lot of threats out there. And then they have the running game. It opens it up for the pass. And, I think he's that guy who's kind of resurrected. He's always a little bit under the radar, but I think you're going to see in Joe Lombardi's offense that he's really going to be highlighted a lot more.
So getting to this week 3 matchup, this is a big one, the first AFC West game between these two teams. Just how big are these divisional games so early on in the season?
I mean, they're huge. We could have got, not we, I say we because we cover the AFC and we cover the AFC West so often being on CBS. But going into that game, they would have been 4-0 in the AFC West yesterday, Sunday, I guess it is. Right? Denver's having, a successful start to the season. You have the Raiders with a successful start to the season. Chargers being 1-1, and now the Chiefs 1-1, but that will change because they're two talented teams to stay at that level. So I think this is a really fun year to be focusing on this division. And I think I think they'll be very likely that they'll get two, playoff teams in there. I think they're just too strong right now. The problem is they start beating up on each other.
Right.
And that could be the issue. But there's a lot of talent out there. A lot of good quarterback play out there. And a lot of good coaches out there in the AFC West right now. And I think we're starting to see how competitive it is.
Kind of funny, though, that these two teams are both 500 right now coming into this game.
I would agree with that. I don't think, I think we thought, Chargers going up against a Dallas defense that was extremely depleted, that maybe at home, maybe they'd be able to pull out that win. But I think everyone knew this would be a tight battle back and forth. Then you have the Ravens also depleted, never having beat the Chiefs before and pulling that one off at the end. I don't think people thought that either. So it could have been where they both were 2-0 coming into this game. But no matter what, this is going to be an absolute battle. And I know Justin Herbert's definitely looking forward to getting back out there against Patrick Mahomes. Who wouldn't, right? You always kind of want to play against the best. And certainly the Chiefs are going to come in, certainly frustrated with the loss.
Yeah, I was going to say both of these teams are probably a little salty with how those games ended in week 2. You saw the Chiefs in week 1. You were at our game in LA in week 2. What are your impressions of both teams right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they, I want to say they're similar, but they're not. I mean, I think the offensive side, when you talk about the Chargers, the run game is up. I mean, it really looks strong, where I think the Chiefs, if you look on the other side, they're really trying to figure out that run game, and they really need that. That's going to be really important for them, just in terms to have more balance. And I think throwing the football, Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert can both throw the ball, and they both have weapons out there. I think it comes down to the defense. It really does for both of these teams right now. I think you're going to see, a defense, and Tyrann Mathieu stepped up and was like, we didn't play hard enough. We didn't play the way we should have played. And, they're going to, get something right. Spags is always going to try and figure out what went wrong there. And I think on the Chargers side also, and the penalties are really a killer. And that was a game that both teams, both Dallas and the Chargers, had issues with penalties, but you cannot give Patrick Mahomes the ball. You can't give him more time with it. You can't give him you can't make mistakes against the Chiefs. And I think that's what it comes down to. Who will be able to limit the mistakes? It sounds like coaches talk. It's what they say. But in the end, that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, there was so much laundry, like you said, all over on the field on Sunday. Brandon Staley said it almost felt like a preseason game with just how many penalties were being called, to your point, on both sides. And he said, look, we got to clean it up. That's a focus for the Chargers this week. Getting to defenses, Kansas City's defense, they're ranked last in the league in total defense. The Chargers offense is putting up the yards, not necessarily the points. Do you think maybe this is an opportunity for them to kind of get that going against KC a little bit?
I do. I think they could take advantage of it, but you're right. They have to convert those yards into touchdowns. Yeah. They can't settle for field goals. You have to match the offensive intensity that Kansas City brings, and that's the key. And it also comes down to your offense. Your offense needs to be able to sustain those drives to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. So while ultimately, I think both of these offenses are going to come out, and it'll be like a shootout. Who could be on top in the end, but in the end, it comes back to defense and who's going to make that final stop. And I do think both of these defenses are a little vulnerable. It's still early. It's only week 3. I mean, we forget this. And, there's a lot of moving parts in these defenses. Also, a lot of players in, out. And so, that time together, that's what they need. So it's only week 3, but I think this comes down to which defenses can make the stop in the end.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. And for the Chargers, brand new offense, brand new defense. They're learning as they're going. They're kind of gelling together. It is early, like you said. I think too, you mentioned the word shootout. I was expecting that versus Dallas last week. We didn't get it. Is that though maybe what you're expecting this week?
I am. I really thought we were going to get it against Dallas also. Yeah. But I do think the penalties caused a big play, was a big issue there. I think we would have seen a lot more of that. And whether it was the refs, but to be honest, there were a lot of calls, not from the refs. There was a lot of bad mistakes out there that just need to be cleaned up from both teams that took away, whether it was a huge chunk play here or a huge chunk play there. It really did, I think, affected that being a shootout. It was kind of like a choppy game. We never really got into that rhythm. I don't see that happening in this game. I think Kansas City, their offense is kind of too good for that. I think you're going to see them, especially Andy Reid being an offensive guy, he's going to fix things. I think he came out very frustrated in that game. I don't think he liked some of the play calling that he had down the stretch. And certainly the turnovers he was frustrated with. I don't think you're going to see that. And I think Justin Herbert's going to come out, and I think he's going to, kind of want to light it up and show, how he is against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you want to always to be the best, you got to beat the best, right?
That's it. That's the key to win your division too. They've led it the last few years, so you got to top them. Starts this week. Tracy, we appreciate you coming on. I have to say before I let you go, this is my 3rd season doing Playmakers. You've been on every year we've done it. Thank you so much for coming on, taking time and sharing your insight.
Kelly, I love what you do. I am a huge supporter of yours. I will come on anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.